Well, I'll share my story.
Yeah, please. Yeah. It's always a perfect,
Why did I start getting into the wellness? So I had the background.
well, it's just, yeah, this is the flow of the show. So we're like, it's, everybody knows the show, right? Who's listening to my show. They all know it goes, yeah, I just let the guests do it their thing and we just go with the flow. So yeah, this is really important because this really gives, what I love to see, and it really is important, is it really gets to see the human side of my guests because we all have stories. And through our stories and through our traumas and our, problems we face in our life, it helps others to know that, hey, there's somebody out there that went through the same thing. So your story is going to be able to help so many other people because they're going to go, holy shit, yeah, I get that. I see what she does. So I always say, a high praise and a big thank you when you do tell your story. So the floor is yours.
All right. So yeah, it's 5 years in. At this point, again, people try to say, oh, okay, the shift work, this and that. You're like, yeah, but you don't really know how to manage it. So, I had dealt with all sorts of different calls. Nothing that really, yeah, some of it was, hard, to deal with, some, kind of gruesome, some of the stuff, but it's like, I kind of moved through that. It didn't really bother me. But I think because I was kind of heading down that road, very like I was averaging maybe 3-4 hours of sleep. The shift work just really got to me. And you can't function when you're not on sleep, and your ability to cope and your ability to just like think and be effective and optimally perform, and your emotional intelligence, like everything kind of gets affected in your, even just how your body detoxifies and how you even feel in your body, right? But anyhow, one of my coworkers, she was one of my really good friends on my shift. We actually got hired around the same time, and then we went to the Ontario Police College together. And then we ended up on the same shift, which was amazing because we were like, oh my gosh, we get to work together. Because, they move people around and sometimes you don't have a choice. And I moved up to the Greater Toronto area when I got hired. So I was living away from home. And so her family became like my second family. And so we became close, and I got a phone call one day, and she had 3 children at the time, and her middle daughter was 12 at the time, and she's like, yeah, she's just died in an ATV accident. And I just remember being in disbelief, and it was the hardest thing to kind of take in. And it was one of those moments where you just drop to the floor and just like, oh my God, like what just happened? And so I drove up there. I moved in with them for about 2-3 weeks, just offering support to her and her husband and her other kids, and just kind of help plan the funeral, write the eulogy. And it was very challenging for me to go through because not only was I trying to support my friend and witness it changing her before my eyes, because that's just, no parent ever wants to go through something like that. It's like the worst possible moment of your life. And then at the same time I was grieving the loss of someone who's like a niece to me. And so I wasn't next to kin, so obviously I go back to work. And then as soon as I go back to work, I had a series of calls that were back to back that were kind of triggers for me, because I was in this like overwhelming feeling of grief in my personal life. And then I feel like when you're exposed, then you're in this type of job profession. So like in your regular life, yeah, you're greatly affected, but then you have to go to work, and then you're dealing with even more grief sometimes, and that can be very compounding. Just really affect you in a different way. And so the first call was, I had a 7-year-old that died from choking. First on scene for that and went to the hospital. And then the second one was a double fatal car accident where it was a young 20-year-old couple, and it was so gruesome. And I didn't even know, it was one of the worst ones I've been to, and I didn't even know there was 2 people in the car at first. So there was that whole thing. And then the third one after that was a Good Samaritan. This elderly was trying to stop a road rage incident. There was this guy that was driving through the parking lot, almost hit a baby stroller as they're like taking the baby out, goes in to try to reach in and turn the car off, and anyway got reversed and got ran over. And so I had to do the death notification for all these kids around the same age. So it was like back to back to back, very compounded within like a period of 3 months or something like that. And I could tell that there was a difference in me. I did not know what was going on. I didn't have understanding about trauma or overexposure of stress. All I knew was like I was not okay. Like I didn't feel like myself. I felt super over emotional. Like, so I would deal with the call, I'd be fine. And then I'd get to my car and I would just bawl my eyes out. I felt like I wasn't really in control of my emotions. I'm like, what's wrong with me? I was very self-isolating. I didn't want to be around people. I was just kind of really disassociating, very fatigued, like no energy. And I feel like a lot of people sometimes will go through levels of like anxiety or depression, and like, even if it's not a lot, like maybe small amounts, where you can feel overwhelmed, or it's like, what's wrong with me? Like, I just want to feel like myself. I don't know what's happening. And so that was the first time in my life where I could understand for the first time how someone within this profession could be affected, or their mental health could be affected, or it could get worse. It can go down this one path and someone might end up getting post-traumatic stress disorder, or an occupational stress injury or something like that, right?
Well, it's
And
even,
again, I think,
it's even worse, I hear too, as well, is the level of suicides now, which is
well,
something
and
which
yes,
is something I wasn't aware of with first responders. And I was brought to that attention. I'm going, holy
yes,
shit, really? And
yeah. And it can snowball if it's not, and so I was curious. I was like, obviously I wasn't myself and I didn't understand it, but it's not even a choice. It's literally your body's response. It's like you're stuck in this fight or flight. You could be like hyper vigilant. You're like, your body doesn't, like, you could be startled easily, or like, it's just your body's reaction to these experiences, right? And sometimes too, when you're in these high stressful incidences, it's not even your thinking mind that's remembering the experience. It's literally your limbic system. It's through your five senses. So none of that stuff I really knew, so I think it was about 8 months, or so, and I was still like not feeling like myself. And then I'm like, I need to do something about this. And at the time, I was not aware of the differences between some of the supports that were out there, like wellness support. So we've got different programs that are available for, like, there's like a employee family assistance program, which is kind of like free counseling, it's a counselor. But they might not necessarily have first responder experience, or maybe that respect. And then there's psychotherapists that more like talk therapy. And then there's like psychologists that have other therapy modalities that can help reframe certain things, or help you move, because they went to school and they have more perspective on just, and a lot of it's temporary too, right? It's just how to help you move through a challenging time in your life. And then you're like, okay after that. But sometimes you just need added support. And I wasn't aware of those different wellness supports at the time. So I did reach out to the EAFP because they were promoting that a lot. And I was like, oh, okay, I can talk to this counselor. But the person didn't have no knowledge about the first responder community and kind of the extra stuff that we deal with. So in my mind, I'm thinking, well, at least I get to maybe talk to this guy a little bit about what happened with, but it did not make me feel better. Like, I was waiting for this aha moment of him to tell me, tell me what to do, make me feel better. And it just didn't work. So, so I decided to so what I wanted to understand was what's happening. And if I'm in this profession for the next 30 years, like, I know I'm not going to be the only one that's ever experienced this. And like, I wanted to figure out, how do I work shift work, overexposure, stress, and trauma, plus all the daily stuff that we deal with in our personal lives. And then how can we still feel good in our bodies, be healthy, and like last?